And here it is. Did it work this time? Are we live?
Yeah, we're
Yes.
live. We're totally live.
Yay! I see chats. I see people in the audience watching. I am live from Las Vegas. From I guess apparently it's still okay to call it hashtag STLV, but the official name, the 55-year mission, the creation is putting on. So, and I have appeared for those of you watching on YouTube watching this live, I have appeared in cosplay as Ensign Fatheree, even though you can't see my lower decks badge because of my hair. But yeah, so
I reckon I did
by,
what you did.
I'm joined by these gentlemen. Yeah, we were having some technical issues, but we're just going to move right on along past that. We're going to go ahead and jump into the show, and hopefully everything runs smooth. And I apologize if I don't sound or look as good as normal because I'm using the mobile emitter like the doctor. I should just wait and explain this when we're actually in the show. Though.
You have a Starfleet uniform on. You look amazing.
Yeah, you look pretty cool.
Okay, so let's kick things off, as I always like to say.
Ooh,
so
that's a
cat
cool
gets out of the
looking
way.
cat anomaly.
All right, I'm Fatheree.
This is Brian. Here.
Is... with a cool Enterprise. And this is Starfleet Boy. Boyms.
Let's just start again from the top for the podcast audience.
All right.
I'm Fatheree.
This is Brian.
And this is Starfleet Boyms.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 151st installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we have deep talks about Star Trek. Even when we're not at home. I'm not in Texas. I'm currently in Nevada because I am attending STLV or 55-year mission or whatever you want to call it. But yes, I'm here at the con in cosplay for those of you watching me.
I am representing the Texans. I'm still in Texas.
We have our Florida man.
I'm at a choo-choo. Yeah, I'm at a choo-choo concert.
But it was new Star Trek that brought us together. We have once again arrived at that time. I mean, we have a season premiere. Lower Decks Season 2 is back. And we now have this endless constant supply of Star Trek on the horizon. This might be the beginning of something very special. We might be getting there probably will be like some gaps here and there in the next year, I think, but I think the next 12 months, like from this point forward, mark my words, like I think we're gonna have like the most Star Trek we've had in decades.
Bring it.
Yeah, we're ready. Yeah. We're ready for it.
You better bring it.
But yeah, the episode that we are talking about, Strange Energies, written by Mike McMahan, the showrunner himself, and directed by Jason Zurek. The synopsis reads, the USS Cerritos is dispatched on a mission where it ends up in a sci-fi event resulting in strange energy, in quotation marks, which Commander Ransom inadvertently absorbs. Yeah, basically Ransom turns into a Gary Mitchell-esque godlike being, and Mariner and Freeman kind of have some mother-daughter disagreements as they work to try to resolve that issue and get Ransom back to normal and protect the planet that this is happening on. We also had like a B story with Tindy and Rutherford. So I think we should each just give an opening statement and kind of express our broad feelings about the episode, and then we'll break it down like we do on Tex-Trek and talk about it in more detail. I don't have any screenshots, by the way, for the visual audience, the people who watch us on YouTube or on the Facebook streams or wherever. So sorry, I've been busy at the convention. I'm using my mobile emitter up in the hotel. Don't have my normal setup or resources, but hang in there. We'll be back in action with all of that next week, hopefully. But yeah, Starfleet Boyms, would you like to give us the first opening statement? How did you feel about this episode, Strange Energies?
Sure thing. But really quick, I just want to give a shout out to F Pairs in the audience. That's a great.
Yeah, Jill with the great usernames. She goes on to say, "I prefer nectarines."
And who doesn't? I just got a whole box of dried nectarines delivered to me today by.
Oh yeah. So now I've watched it about 3 or 4 times, actually 4 times already, and it's really delightful. At first I wasn't sure if it was a strong opening, or I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe some more spectacle perhaps, but it was pretty spectacular. But after watching it 3 times and getting a lot of the gags and just like really like living in it, I'm just like, you know what? I'm so happy Lower Decks is back. I love this show. It makes me laugh so much. And it's like all day I'm just thinking about the gags, and like people are like, why do you have a smile on your face? And the answer should be I had sex last night. But no, it's because Lower Decks was really, really funny. And so I'm just excited to see what comes this season. We just get some zany craziness, a lot of great references as we always do, and I don't even know how it pulls it off, but the show manages to be both parody and reverential. So I'm excited.
Okay, very, very positive reactions from down in Florida.
Yeah,
Brian back in the ATX and up in the 512. I guess technically he's in Pflugerville. But
this is the most spread out Tex-Trek in a while. Like,
yeah,
like
covered. I think so. It might be. What was the reaction in the Brian Swift living room to watching this?
I have to admit, I was not wowed by it. It's not bad. It's not terrible. But if I try to imagine what a standard, maybe even dare I say paint by numbers Lower Decks episode would look like, it would probably end up looking like this. I mean, there were definitely moments I was laughing out loud. I won't deny that, but they weren't as often as even most of the episodes from season 1, I think. And well, there was a definite attempt to put some sort of kind of have some sort of grounded substance to the episode. I felt that the A plot at least fell fairly flat, and I definitely ended up being a much bigger fan of the B plot on this one. To boil it down to a simple sentence, the Gary Mitchell gag is funny to begin with, but gets old way before they stop hitting you over the head with, look, it's like Gary Mitchell, over and over and over again throughout the episode. And I was like, okay, it's not really funny anymore. We should do something different or move on, or maybe somebody else should ascend and then they could have the gods fighting or something. And it's, so yeah, not terrible, but I guess I would, I distinctly average, disappointingly average for the season premiere.
Well, my reaction is probably going to skew a little closer to Brian's. I had a lot of fun watching this episode, and like Sohel, I was thrilled to have Lower Decks back. But it also reminded me some of the things that the show does that bothers me. Specifically, like, a couple of times when like the serious stakes are played for more jokes and more comedy than anything else. There's a couple of times where I was thinking like, okay, the captain should be much more concerned about this. There's like a civilization that's in danger, or wow, like this is really the time y'all are going to sit and have like this heart-to-heart conversation when there's like a giant space god outside of the windows attacking the ship. It just needs to be more serious with some of that high drama stuff. And I think it could do that and still be funny. It does that on occasion, but it's something that I just have to get used to and accept with Lower Decks. I've largely made my peace with that. And, watching this episode a couple times, I would remind myself the show has to be both a Star Trek show and an animated comedy. And sometimes the stuff I expect from a Star Trek show will be sacrificed at times to serve the greater good of being an animated comedy. And just like how sometimes Star Trek Discovery does stuff that bothers me, but it's part of the sacrifice they make because they want to be like that prestigious modern show that looks so cool and is all these overwhelming visuals, and
it's a bit JJ.
and sometimes Discovery is going to sacrifice what I expect for a Star Trek show in order to satisfy that other part of its identity. And it's something that I've largely made my peace with. I had an overall positive experience, but I would think it is fair to say this was more of a typical Lower Decks episode. It wasn't anything special, like worthy of being a season opener, in my opinion, which is okay. That's how Star Trek season starts sometimes. So not a big deal. But yeah, overall a little mixed, but slightly more on the positive side for me.
I do think when you talked about it doesn't feel like they're taking the threat seriously. I realized that's part of it. I was actually a bit concerned about and unable about the B plot and what was going to happen in the B plot as far as Rutherford's relationship with Tendi and whether or not it would be damaged beyond repair by all of this, or it wouldn't be beyond repair, but if it would take a few episodes to fix, or if they were going to put this all back together by the end of the episode. Whereas I felt no sense of stakes whatsoever with the A plot. And so, I guess to some degree taking it seriously. The plot they took seriously, I cared about. So,
it is hard to like get that investment in it, because like we know as the audience, like we know that like these things they play for jokes, they're not going to kill anybody. Like no one's going to die.
Yeah, well, I thought they're not going to kill Ransom in the premiere after killing Shax at the finale.
Right.
They're not going to.
They're not going to kill those aliens on the planet. Because like the only time we see people die in Lower Decks is when they were trying to make the Pakleds into a big threat. Anything they play for humor, no one ever dies. When they turned into zombies, no one died. When they got the ship attacked by and invaded by like the Crystal people, no one died. So, like, and I like that. I think it's not funny if people die, especially in Star Trek. But sometimes it seems like the characters know that too. Like Captain Freeman didn't seem like too concerned that like the civilization was in danger or anything else. She's more concerned about like looking good in front of the Admiralty. She's just like, get this fixed and in a hurry and beam back up. And
it's a comedic take on what probably would happen in quote unquote real life, not a cartoon life, where second contact missions wouldn't be that dangerous. You'd expect them to be very routine and very just like commonplace, like, oh, we're just going to like tie up the paperwork and help these out. So like I think that's why that's just a hyperbolic comedic version of what might be a real attitude of a captain, like a Captain Styles or a Captain Esteban type person.
I feel like someone going godlike and attacking the ship though. That's like, okay, it's time to like take this serious.
Yeah,
we need a couple of wide-eyed reactions. It's true.
Yeah, I think I am going to have a new category when I'm reviewing episodes from season 2, which is going to be is this really the prime timeline category, where something happens that I just cannot imagine happening.
It doesn't matter. It's prime timeline.
I know, but that when the point when it hits me, and I'm busy thinking about that instead of thinking about what's going on the screen.
I can totally
and
relate.
In this one, it was the things are all going to hell on the planet, and the captain goes in and tells the admiral, "We're all fine here. How are you?" And I'm like, what Starfleet captain would possibly like that to make this work? All of this has to not be in the log entries, or the admiral just has to be fine with the captain lying to them. these are the only two outcomes we're getting. Is all of this has to be banned from everybody's log entries, or and I'm just like,
I don't know if you guys heard
have.
I don't know if you guys heard the thunder, but Ransom's very angry.
Oh
Brian,
no! We could use some thunder and rain here. It's hotter than hell.
He's angry at Miami a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to be angry at Miami. It's true.
Yeah. Everything else, I was able to. Okay, they're gonna do all the things. It's just gonna be a bit silly. But that wasn't just a bit silly. That was just impossible to imagine in a world with Picard and Janeway and Cisco. At least to me. So
I did the same thing for Discovery for the visual aesthetics. I kept like compartmentalizing it in like another timeline or something just until, and then I finally was like, no, that's silly. I gotta stop. And I just now I just treat it as a radio drama. So I just close my eyes and I listen, and if everything's fine. No, I'm teasing. But I'll always say to defend that is that how many times did Kirk kind of do similar things where I mean, the best move for her would have been like, tell them I'll call them back. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
like a simple.
That would have been funny. That would have been funny that she's which admiral is it? Oh, it's this admiral. Oh, tell him I'll call him back.
Exactly.
That would have been funny. And yet it makes sense. She's got this problem to deal with. She does not have, there's no way the admiral can help. So telling the admiral is not going to solve this is just going to delay the solution to this problem. So I'm making an executive decision to solve the problem first, then talk to the admiral. Fine,
But to be an animated comedy, they'll want to have something
more
funny there. So
and also,
but finding out which admiral it is, and then once she learns who it is, telling them that this admiral you could just put on hold. I'll talk to them later. That is kind of funny, and that's something we just came up with in like 10 seconds. If we thought about it, we could probably even come up with a funnier way for her to put the admiral on hold.
Let me just point out real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Boys, but I just want to say that mine and Antonia's niece is watching right now on her mom's phone, it looks like. So I'm hoping that she makes it to her flight back to Sacramento, because that's where she should be going right now. So just wanted to say hi to Savani. But yeah, what were you saying? Starfleet Boys, and then we need to move on to the episode.
Yeah. I'll keep it brief. I was just saying that it does reveal about Captain Freeman, like interesting character traits, like how she's actually quite insecure, and like she's really trying hard to impress her. It's by the way, the bad move is why would you assign her husband to her as her admiral? Like it should be like Admiral Nechayev or something like that. But
people in Starfleet have spouses in their command structure.
That does happen all the time. Yeah. It does happen all the time.
I guess so.
Well, but maybe not all the time, but often enough that we can't say this is where they dropped the ball.
I'm just saying like it is odd that he's like her admiral. Like it should be Nechayev or someone else in my mind. But anyways, the point is it does reveal who
do you think is Troy's boss on the Titan?
Oh yeah, duh, that's true. Good point.
Although Jadzia reported to Worf on DS9.
Oh, I forgot. Okay, you're putting me in my place there. but regardless, it does reveal her like insecurity, and also like she's trying to get promoted and get a better ship basically, and so she'll do anything at this point to get out of this situation, including lie.
Her mom's like Freeman's like, nothing I do will get my Mariner to transfer to another ship, so I will have to get another ship so that to get away from her. That's
exactly it.
And we have a comment in the live audience from parenthesis I. He says, both Captain Freeman and Mariner are insecure, and they keep on triggering each other in part because they are so similar, I think. Yeah, and Ransom even makes that observation that they both have a chip on their shoulder, especially when the other one is involved.
Yeah, and I think Freeman keeps her what is the word I'm trying to think of here? Her mischievous, her rascalness contained because she feels she has to be a good captain because that's the job. And I think she resents that her daughter gets to let all that out, and that that frustrates her, that she gets to see her daughter doing all the things that she probably wants to do too, but she's not going to allow herself to do because this is a Star Trek show and she doesn't want to drive off all the viewers. So
it goes by so quickly. I wish the show had a little more time than like 24 minutes, but it looks like Freeman does accompany Mariner on a bunch of these side missions and collects trinkets from it. Like in that one scene, she's like, "Oh, I wish you didn't keep all these like mementos from our side missions."
Oh,
so
from the root water.
Yeah, the root water and like a mask and things like that.
Yeah.
As much as I love the opening, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it with the Miranda class and the escape from the Cardassian prison, I do wish
talk
they
about
had
that right now. Let's talk about that right now.
Oh, sweet. I love that opening so much. Like, it was such an exciting opening, but I do wish that they also kind of had a little bit of a montage where they just showed like what happened in the last 3 months, basically, to kind of like show us some of that progress, like how it can be annoying to be, always now being friends with your mom, who you were having this adversarial relationship with. You do catch on to it. It's all in the dialogue, and it's all presented, but it took me 3 viewings to kind of like really tune into that. So I wish there was just a little more, or the show was just a tad slower.
I think it's actually pretty good at its format, and I think it's really figured out that 24-minute format, or however long the typical episode is. I think it's I like the way that they handle stuff like that. I was just glad they gave us the details of, oh yeah, it has been a few months. We are in the next year. It is the year 2381, not 2380 anymore. But yeah, let's talk about like that opening, the Cardassian holodeck program. Right away, like the way that some of that torture scene was going down, it did make me feel a little bit like it kind of feels like she's not taking this seriously. Like, and then I told myself, well, maybe they're just on the holodeck, which is like what I always tell myself when it's something in lower decks that like it kind of feels like they're not treating it as real. But this time it actually was on the holodeck, so it worked out, and I thought it was pretty funny the way that they used that to kind of get in Mariner's head a little bit. She's talking to this Cardassian torturer. It was very lower decks tradition, how it was like paying homage to something iconic from the Next Generation. They remind us that Boymes is there. They have Boymes say that, oh, I'm just a hologram, I'm not so they kind of let you figure it out that it's a holodeck program, instead of like saying that from the very beginning. So that was kind of a fun reveal, the way that played out. And we had so many cool Gorn eggs with some of those ships. And then for whatever reason, like Jennifer the Andorian, I was happy that Jennifer came back. It's like Mariner yelled at her in season 1. She's like, "Shut up, Jennifer," or something like that.
Or move over.
I don't know what she hates
pushes...
Jennifer the Andorian, but I don't know. I just think that's funny. It reminds me of on Futurama, Hermes and what was the lobster man, Dr. Zoidberg. They hated each other, and it never explains why. Does it? They just like always hated each other. I don't know. I just think that's funny because I guess people on a ship probably. She even points that out. Like, I know we're not supposed to have interpersonal conflicts, but I really hate that.
I did notice this. We start off fairly meta with a deliberate. I know we're not supposed to have interpersonal conflicts, which was, of course, the Gene Roddenberry mantra that the writers of the 90s were always trying to dodge and work their way around. And arguably DS9 and the Maquis were created entirely to deal with that single sentence, that people in the 24th century Starfleet officers don't have interpersonal conflicts. So I thought it was cute. I also thought that's definitely going a bit meta there to be quoting Roddenberry's rules in a Star Trek story. And they also, what I think doesn't, there was another meta thing. Mariner says things are going a bit sci-fi, I think, at one point, and I thought also hinting that she knows she's in a sci-fi show was also a bit meta, which I don't mind like a little bit. Yeah,
that one bothered me. The sci-fi one bothered me. The interpersonal conflicts one didn't.
The interpersonal one is a bit more easy to rationalize because there probably are some sort of Starfleet protocols about not letting things get out of hand. But though, I mean, by Mariner's standards, she really isn't letting that get out of hand. But
the only thing that bothered me there was the leg day joke, because I was like,
Really?
they make so many jokes about leg day, about like working out and not skipping leg day. Like, I did laugh when like she started doing the squats on the bridge for no reason, but yeah, it's like because it's leg day. It's like, okay, I'm good on leg day jokes. Like, I don't need any more.
I had forgotten all the other leg day jokes, so I actually thought that was cute.
I have to say personally that I don't really have a lot of fun working out, but if holodecks existed, that is how I would work out. I would 100% do like crazy missions and like run a lot. And
like, you could put into the program, there's probably people who write programs where you actually will work certain muscles. The computer's smart enough that it could rock the ship in the right way to get you to work those muscles. And if you tell it to do that, it probably can figure it out.
Born too soon.
I did love, again, and I think I mentioned this, it might have been in my top 3 things I wanted to see, a revisit of using the holodeck as Gene Roddenberry originally intended to visualize our heroes working out their internal issues as a literal visual thing on the screen. And we did get to see that. So now they've done it twice on lower decks, which is quickly going to eclipse the next generation. They did it like 2 or 3 times total in 7 years. So I really love that. I love that Hollow Boimler is trying to cover for real Boimler, but he's like, the computer doesn't have the answer. So it just has to kind of break its own fourth wall and say, listen, I'm just a hologram. I don't know. I can't help you with this, which was, again, amazing. The hook is basically all win as far as I'm concerned. And maybe that was part of the reason I was more disappointed about everything else, is nothing quite lived up to that hook that we got. I did wonder about the Cardassians having an excruciator, but then I decided that's probably a translation thing. That it probably sounds really badass if you're speaking it in Cardassian, so I let it go. But
Sohel, did you have any thoughts on that Cardassian prison escape at the beginning?
Yeah, it was really cool from a lot of perspectives, because there's a lot of, as you say, Gorn eggs. Are you gonna go over the Gorn eggs like as we break down the scenes, or are you gonna do them at the end? Or
the ones that I was able to catch, we'll do them at the end.
Okay, cool.
I only watched this episode twice. I didn't get to watch it 4 times like you. But,
even watching it 4 times, I had help from the internet. There's a couple people that love to break down the different things that they see, the references and stuff like that. Shout out to Zurek and also AJ Hallowell and a bunch of folks. But so I saw like a few things here and there. But there's like a lot of ships in the escape scene that are like from different things. There's like a runabout, a Delta Flyer. Like
I caught a bunch of them.
Stuff like that.
I'll
it's exciting.
And if I miss any, people,
we'll
feel free
tell
to
you.
let me know.
But aside from that, just it was an exciting scene. I caught on a little later the first time that it was a hologram. I must have missed some of the cues. I didn't catch on till the Boimler gag comes up, and then I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Of course it's. I was like, oh, of course it's a holodeck simulation. She's in her shorts and sneakers and like has a headband on, and she seems completely non-stressed out about it. Also, yeah, it was like, but it was really funny. It was cool to open with Mariner and really get into her. I like the Tanya Newsom tweeted about how she's aggressive. She kind of has like an aggressive crush on Boimler. It's like her like that she won't admit, and it comes out in this really aggressive way or whatever. And so you could definitely see that she misses her best pal, and like she's not happy about it. But this is how she kind of she doesn't process it, just like many of her things, in like the most like constructive way. And so yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just, that was a question I did have is what exactly is she upset about? Is it something to do with Mom or is it something to do with Boimler? Because, or is it both? And if so, what are the two things she's upset about? I guess Boimler.
She's mad that he left without saying goodbye.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
That was in the season 1 finale.
And because there was some griping about Mom as well. And or I guess that was more of after the opening.
The Mom thing is, I think she feels compelled now to, like, because Carol is giving her, I'm on a first name basis with them now, because Captain Freeman's giving her all this like leeway, she feels compelled to be like nicer, and like she think, you know, to treat her mom like she's cool. And then there's like a weird kind of, you know, dynamic where they actually can't stand each other, but there's like a weird stalemate, I feel, where they're just doing something that doesn't keep them fighting all the time, even though it's not productive.
She wants to rebel. She wants to be a rebel against Mom. But before we go into the A story, though, I just wanted to talk about the opening credits sequence that we got after the teaser with the Cardassian stuff. Did either of you notice the changes to the opening credits sequence?
Totally.
I noticed at least one. I don't know if there was more than that, then I didn't catch the others.
They added some Pac-led ships and some, I guess, Klingon ships to that battle. You know, it was Romulans versus Borg.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And I think that was just the show saying, like, the Pac-leds, they're going to be our Romulans or Borg or Klingons. Like, they're the big bad for this show now. They're worthy to be here in this opening credit moment. And then also, I think the CGI model of the Cerritos, it looks a little different after it got refitted at the end of last season.
And there's just like more detail, like for example the creature that's latched onto the nacelle, you can actually see little pieces of it moving around,
like more glowy bits
on it, and like I feel like just overall there's more detail. And and then the composer whose name is
Chris Westlake, I believe.
Thank
right?
you. He said that unlike before where they all recorded their pieces separately and it was a smaller arrangement, they actually re-recorded the opening credits with a 60-piece orchestra. So that got a nice boost. Yeah. And you can tell, I actually went back and compared it, and you can tell there's like a nicer, a richer sound to it.
Yeah, I want to do a comparison of the visuals and just see what all the changes are. Again, I haven't had time because I've been at the convention and seeing a bunch of cool panels. And
sounds like you're making excuses, Captain Fatheree. No, I'm just kidding.
Ensign Fatheree.
Ensign Fatheree. Sorry.
Yeah.
Do I look like Captain Material? We can get into the A story.
I'm sure you could pull it off in Lower Decks.
Yeah, well, Freeman sets a pretty low bar. But let's get into that. Let's talk about the planet Apergos, I think is how they said it.
Yeah, the Apergosians.
Yeah, so that's one of their second contact missions. I guess they are setting them up. I guess like they go and like they install your internet when you join the Federation. Like they come and do like the install. They're like the dude who comes to like set up your internet, basically.
Subspace frequency.
Yeah. It actually is a perfect example of what second contact would be about and why people would consider it lame. I actually loved the idea of it. It did have the thing, and Voyager did this a whole lot. Bring me more pads. Like a single pad has got to hold what, like a bazillion gigs in the 24th century? How many numbers do you need if you've got two whole pads worth of number?
DS9, like a lot of times Cisco would have like 10 pads on his desk.
Yeah, one could assume that's a multiple monitor thing, or basically like people kept coming in and giving him pads for various reports, and they just hasn't gotten a way to putting them away. Whereas Voyager, they're like, I've got the old logs from the Raven, and they open a crate, and it's a whole bunch of pads in a rack, and I'm like, how many log entries did they make? There's more data there than the Library of Congress.
But I did like Mariner's mission here, where she is like, oh yeah, like these people have all this polluted art from, I guess, like their older times, their ancient days, but
their
in the
antiquity,
revolution, they dirtied it all up. So I want to go down there and clean it. And or Freeman's excuse is like, the Federation wouldn't spend resources on that because the Federation or Starfleet doesn't value aesthetics
which
like,
is
yeah,
total
sometimes you'll have some-
bullshit.
Well,
Have
sometimes
you
they
looked
do
at their
have ugly
ships?
ships and ugly uniforms, but most of the time, like there is like some obvious like intention to be a little stylish, you know.
Somebody put wood on Picard's bridge. Wood, that big wooden arch. They clearly,
Yeah.
they clearly value aesthetics.
Yeah.
So I thought that. I mean, I could get how. I assumed it was in relation to we don't criticize new first contacts for having dirty planets. That might actually be in the rule books. You know, we don't judge new first contacts or second contacts because there's dirt, there's litter on the streets, you know. And so I can say, okay, that's kind of what she's talking about there, is that in this context, Starfleet doesn't prioritize aesthetics. But
I like the nature of that mission, and I like that when it does activate the strange energies that I said with air quotes for people listening to me who couldn't see that. But with it was actually Ransom was like not being an asshole in that moment. He's like trying to like save Mariner. He's trying to like move her out of the way. Like he like ran in and like took the blast from the strange energies. I did it again with the air quotes. But yeah, and then we get like that transformation into the super Ransom or whatever we want to call them. I don't know
the Ransom on the Mount.
Ransom on the Mount. Yeah, they named the thing in the episode. And then it eventually just turns into like that giant head. So he when he gets the god abilities, like he literally gets like a big head, and he's he fills up. We had a comment earlier when we were talking about Freeman and Mariner and their insecurities. It was our longtime audience member Michael Stepniak. Hi, Michael.
Ooh, shout out.
He said the exploration of the characters' insecurities was the most compelling part of the episode, like down to Ransom being so happy to be validated. So yeah, he felt unseen and he felt overlooked, and now he's like, no, I am like this great awesome entity, and took it a little too far, and that's where things got cartoony and fun. But the original series did have crazy things like space gods and hands grabbing ships and stuff like that. So it's not out there. That part of it I was okay with.
Yeah, I didn't object to the idea of what they did. I just got bored with it. It wasn't so much that they shouldn't do this in Lower Decks, just that I'm not laughing anymore. So there's a problem here.
I liked that they showed the TAS animated style Gary Mitchell on the display screen when they were when they were doing research about the strange energies. That was so. They did that last season too with Kirk, and I think it was just Kirk and Spock also. So I thought that was really funny.
It was Kirk and Spock when they were on Beta 3. What's cool about that is our friend Aaron Harvey, who does the Drawn to Trek podcast where they talk about all the animated Star Treks, and also literally wrote the book on the animated series. Mm-hmm. He met Mike McMahan at the season 2 premiere, and he said that Mike McMahan told him they used that book, that the ultimate guide or the complete guide to the animated series. They use that when they're working on Lower Decks, whenever they're thinking about referencing something from the animated series.
Oh, that's amazing! That's such a cool thing. That Aaron must have been so pleased to hear that. That's cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, Tiana learned from Kirk. She wanted to use a boulder to stop him, but it turned out all you had to do is just kick him in the nuts.
Yeah.
Well, the boulder did the final trick, because if you notice, she's kicking him, he still keeps recharging, and then when the boulder lands on him, you hear pew, and that's when everything reverses. It was so the boulder did the final trick, and I love that.
Are we okay with the idea that boulder didn't kill him? Because once his superpowers go away, I would think it'd be pretty much all over, or at least, okay, he's gonna need we can save the head, but he's gonna need a new body, kind of level of medical crises here.
He is in the recovery bed after, so I'm sure they had to restore some of his structural integrity after that.
I mean, I literally thought when they first landed the boulder out, oh my God, they are gonna kill Ransom. Good on you. Oh no, wait, he's still alive. Which unfortunately they had pulled the exact same gimmick in a Bad Batch episode I just watched where somebody really should have been dead, but somehow magically was still alive.
Oh wow.
I mean, we're cool with Mariner basically using sexual assault to solve the problem. That's we're down with that.
I mean, I think that's a legitimate attack in a hand-to-hand combat situation.
Yeah,
I guess it's dirty fighting is what I would call it.
All right. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, we kind of give it a pass because it's a woman hitting a man, but I still kind of feel like, it's not just once. It was like a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, I would have been okay with anyone kicking him in the balls.
I don't think it's the first time someone got kicked in the privates in Star Trek.
Yeah.
In fact,
Star
Trek 6, they make a big joke about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it was when it kind of went on. And again, maybe is Ransom supposed to represent some sort of toxic masculinity that is literally being neutered by Mariner, or am I trying to read too much into this? Because he is kind of egotistical. He's all about his big body. He is very much the kind of Riker dialed up to 11 Kirk-esque type character in previous episodes, and he is here, literally obsessed with his own greatness to the point where he thinks he's a god. So I'm like, well, maybe it's supposed to be a little bit about gender, and sexual harassment and stuff. The fact that he's just so over the top that we need to neuter him literally to bring him down. I don't know. Am I reading too much into that or not?
It kind of felt like that was the approach they took back when the substitute captain came and visited in season 1, and then he's hitting on her in the Cerritos bar. They were kind of making him look like a jerk there, and then had him be the victim of a joke in that episode.
I think Ransom definitely is on the edge of a knife when it comes to that. Like, he teeters into going into that toxic point, but fortunately he has a lot of people to kick him in the balls and keep him in line, mainly Mariner. But like, I think that, like, it's, for me, I totally get what you're saying, and I see it, but for me, it's one of those weird anomalies where only those two characters can get away with that dynamic, like Mariner and Ransom. Like, I feel like if it was anyone else, it would seem odd, but like the fact that it was Mariner and Ransom, it seemed like kind of, apropos.
But yeah, like, the main point of this A story was to, I guess, give Ransom something to do. He got like a little bit of spotlight, but the primary objective, in addition to that, was to have Mariner and Freeman kind of not get along, and then decide, like, okay, we're still gonna like work together, but like not as much. Like, we need like a little bit of space. Well, that kind of confused me the first time I watched it, because I was like, oh, they just like ended the first season like the two of these being like, okay, we need to like team up, and you can like I'll just look the other way when you want to go like do some of this important stuff that needs to be done. And then I'm like, oh, they're undoing that now. But then like I watched it the second time and I understood, like, oh wait, they're actually like still going to maintain that working relationship, but just with a little bit more distance now.
Yeah, I guess why not do an episode where we see them working together and it causing problems, as opposed to putting one on the planet and one on the ship, and really, I don't know. I just felt like it was an odd episode for them to learn that lesson. I guess. Yeah, I thought weird that they need to give each other a bit more space when, in fact, there was probably about an average of 40,000 kilometers between them for most of the story.
I was really liking how Captain Freeman was kind of reasserting herself, and almost like it seems like she's kind of lost control of the command in a way. Like, her daughter's taking advantage, and then Ransom's like feeling butthurt and left out, and like, so it sounds like she was like at a point where she wasn't really like leading, and so finally when Mariner keeps saying, no, you've got to give him more energy, blast him with the torpedoes, and she's like, no, I'm going to do it my way, and it actually starts working, and I was really happy about it. But then of course it's undermined with Mariner just kicking him in the
well, no, but it stopped working. It stopped working because
I guess it did. Yeah,
Freeman
it did kind of stop
couldn't
working.
go that
right.
extra step and tell him like, oh yeah, like you're good enough, like you could be.
You're good enough to be a captain.
Ship.
That's right.
Like she literally said like, Mister, this is my ship or something.
I love that part, by the way. I loved when she got sassy and she just let him know like whose ship it was. That was so awesome.
I think that's gonna be like the famous Captain Freeman line.
This is my ship, honey. It's so good.
I feel like there's another version where Ransom was the responsible one, at least at the beginning, and it's not that he's butthurt; it's that he thinks the command structure of the ship is being eroded by the fact that Mariner has effectively become the new first officer of the ship, and that the captain goes along with almost everything she says, and that this is causing problems and giving Mariner this much power and not putting any brakes on Mariner, and that he has these legitimate concerns. And then when he gets godified, it turns into, I should be the goddamn captain, not you, because you're screwing it up. And eventually at the end, Freeman realizes, you're right, I have been screwing it up. And then the whole thing deflates. And I think that would have been a slightly stronger message that would have made Ransom look like less of made Ransom look useful, albeit a problem when he's trying to eat the ship still. You still get all that. But it wouldn't
have ended with the big gag of Mariner kicking him in the balls. So that's why they didn't go.
I can live without that gag.
I know, but they want it to be an animated comedy that like the Adult Swim audience will
I mean,
that's
we could even have the Doctor
sacrifices we make.
We could have even had the Doctor say, well, the only way to actually get this God energy out of him is to force him to experience extreme pain. Oh, I got this, says Mariner. And she just runs over, and even though he's no longer threatening the ship, she just starts kicking him in the balls. And I mean, I don't know.
And I just remembered, Brian, I just remembered, I think that they had like a little bit of self-consciousness about her assault on Ransom, because he did, when he started to like come to, he thanked her. He was like, oh, yeah, I was totally going insane. Thank you for doing that. Then she kicked him again because his eyes started glowing a little bit. And that made me laugh. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
the came down.
I'm not saying it wasn't funny. I just sometimes think I just tried to take a step back and being a bit more objective about it. And I was like, is this what we want in our Star Trek? But so they're really, I mean, the Mariner, at the end, they act like the Mariner-Freeman relationship caused this problem, but looking over it, I don't see how it caused any of the problems. Yeah, there was a little argument about whether or not to use the torpedoes, but the captain was the person with the torpedoes whose job it was to make the decision, and she made the decision, and the story moved on. I mean, yeah, it didn't seem like there were any big problems that came out of their relationship in this episode, but at the end, they kind of act like there were big problems that came out of their relationship.
Well, I think they were just getting on each other's nerves, right? Like. Yeah. Freeman was pissed that Mariner wouldn't follow direct orders, and Mariner was pissed that Freeman wouldn't just back off and let her handle it her way because she thought she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, well, what orders did Mariner break in this episode? Because they haul her off to the brig at the end for disobeying orders. Which orders did she disobey in this episode?
I feel like... Oh, go ahead.
Well, wasn't it when Freeman was like, I'm going to talk him down, and then Mariner kept trying to fight him?
I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't think she was doing it. We don't see her doing anything to him until she starts kicking him in the balls. And at that point, it seems to be very necessary that the talk down tactic has failed. I mean, if she was on the bridge and actively trying to fire the torpedoes while the captain was saying, no, don't do that. Okay. But she's down on the planet just sending advice up. And that's not defying orders. Unless she was ordered to shut up. And even then, I'm not sure if it warrants being thrown in the brig just because you didn't shut up during a crisis.
I don't know. I might would know if I was able to watch it 3 times like I normally do.
Well, I was gonna agree with you, Fatheree. I thought that was like the moment where she kind of like, you know, was in defiance of Captain Freeman's orders. And I also think, I don't know if it's very explicit in the episode, but I do think she's been waiting 3 months to put her in the brig. So it was kind of like,
if someone else like knows like the exact time when Mariner disobeys an order, it'd probably be pretty easy to find if you go back and rewatch this.
Minute 5.
And disobeys an order that is worthy of her being thrown in the brig.
That's
not
the part
just
that's
getting
dubious.
a reprimand or a note on her record, but literally being thrown in the brig. I mean, she's done lots of things in other episodes that make it feel like she should be thrown in the brig. But when I went back the second time, I was trying to figure out what it was she was being thrown in the big brig for at the end of this episode, and I came up with nothing.
I'm happy to chalk it up to just Freeman getting her like her it's like when your mom sends you to your room. That's what the brig is like for Mariner. Like, she even says the brig doesn't have an effect on her. You know, I know she could probably like confine her to quarters, but it's like still annoying. You have to go to the brig and everyone's going to talk crap about you being in the brig and stuff like that. Yeah. So I see it more as
she loves going to the brig though.
Well, yeah,
I know she does love it. She's even drawing like a crayon castle and stuff like that. I did love the part where she's like, I do what I want. Like that's the thing. Like a couple. I remember teenager me saying I do what I want. Couple times.
And you could have still had that moment. You could have had Freeman say, all of this chaos on the planet is not going to look good for when Starfleet Command finds out about it. And then Mariner says, listen, just say you didn't give me permission to go clean those buildings. It'll all be my fault. Throw me in the brig and your record's clean. And she goes, you do that for me? And she goes, yes. And they go, well, fine, off to the brig with you. And you know, it just unfolds like that. And you could have still had the Mariner likes being thrown in the brig gag. And it would have had them like working together by not working together, which I think would have been fun.
That's funny.
Well, we do need to move on because I have to end on time because I have a reservation for on the roof of the Rio for a steak from the Voodoo Steakhouse.
How fancy!
I'm
we don't want to make you late to your steak.
I'm gonna try to wear this Starfleet uniform into there, and we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Just 2 more things on the A story. Just real quick reactions from both of y'all. Then we'll move on to the B story. But 1. Ransomites, and B, Stevens. I think he was a lieutenant, but the guy who's like a Ransom fanboy. What are your thoughts on either one of those things? Because I thought the Ransomites were really weird when people started turning into they started turning into ransoms and started working out.
I thought of the Master from
Doctor Who.
The End of Time 2-parter, where the Master turns everyone on the Earth into the Master.
That was weird too.
Okay, fine. They're come up with it. As far as a weird god thing to do, sure, why not? I had no particular objection to it.
I think
it was cute and weird. I like the boss. The leader was like, my constituents.
That's right. He said that.
He was a funny character. I liked him.
I think all the ass kissing from Stevens worked beautifully with that gag when he's like, "Make me a ransom."
That's where it went too far for me.
Really? I loved it.
I thought the idea of Stevens is really funny, but then when he sees this happen and his reaction is like, do me too, and like, yeah, I'll worship you as a god. It was like, no, he should have actually been like really concerned about what the hell was going on. And there was at that point in the episode where like that reminder in my brain kicked in, and it's funny because then like I almost like immediately forgave it but I was like, oh yeah, but this also has to be an animated comedy. As much as it has to be a Star Trek show, it has to be an animated comedy.
See, I almost put that under the "is this really the prime timeline" heading, but then I said, by this point he's got God powers. He's messing with everything around with him. He could actually be messing with the poor guy's brain, so he isn't thinking rationally.
That's a good point. He was in Mariner's head. He was in Mariner's head.
He was there.
So that was my headcanon.
Joke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was good.
I do wish they'd gone a little deeper into lore, and I wish that Stevens was like the doctor who has the Esper who also gets godlike. And so he becomes like his what does he call him, his buddy, or like his what was the thing that he calls?
I think it was little buddy and big
little
guys,
like I wish little buddy had also like kind of gotten godlike, and they descended together upon on the mountain and we're looking over everyone.
You can write that fan fiction, but we got to move on to the B story and talk about the Tendi and Rutherford stuff. Rutherford trying to get back to life after losing his memory, and him and Tendi trying to continue the friendship. I guess they just kind of had like the reset button hit on.
I do want to say the opening of the scene for this plot line is they do one of those shots from outer space and then zoom into the window. So you see exactly where their quarters are, or their hallway or whatever it is. Barracks, I guess that's the word. And yeah, those windows on the edge of the saucer section are about like 7 feet tall. So there's 5 decks, minimum 5, maybe 6 that on the edge of that saucer section. That ship is like easily the size of that saucer is easily the size of Picard's saucer as far as total volume. That thing is huge. We've discussed it before, and the MSDS put like 2 decks on the edge of the ship, but no, not when they did that zoom in. That thing is got to be like at least the size of Picard's saucer, probably even bigger. So
I hope someone does like an actual like those EC Henry type videos where they like go, judging by this, going from the size of a tricorder, a standard tricorder, and comparing it to like going from there.
Yeah,
and like
I had been saying 3 decks at the edge, assuming the windows were about 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall, but they're actually 7 feet tall. So yeah, that's twice the size of what I thought.
That's funny.
But I really like the Tendi storyline. As I already alluded to, there was actually some stakes to this. And I like Tendi and Rutherford a lot. So I was instantly, worried about them and concerned. I didn't really feel like Rutherford was ever in any danger from his brain thing. I was pretty sure that was just Tendi chasing a rabbit. But
the SMD, the synthetic memory degradation.
Yeah. Did either of you think that there was any chance that there was a serious problem with him, or
no? I mean, I know he's going through some kind of changes. My mother had brain surgery, and there were slight differences before and after, so I just equated it to that. Like it's a similar thing. Like, oh, before she didn't like pears, and now she does, that kind of that kind of thing. And so but ultimately, that was the storyline that, like, both of the storylines together made it very enjoyable. But like, I think for me, this was like the storyline where I was just a little confused at first, and I was just like, why are we going back to this like kind of, this weird dynamic and all that? I wanted to see a little bit more caring and a little bit less mania from Tendi, but I did, upon further viewing, really warm up to that plot too, and especially the whole gag with Lieutenant Barnes and Cetacean Ops and all that. I was just like, all I want to do is swim with girls. I love that part. It's just it was like such a funny thing.
I love that they brought back Barnes and like they recreate like
it was really funny.
First episode.
Yeah,
and it's even like Mariner's reaction, like the introduction of Rutherford in that first episode when Tendi came on board. And he was saying that he had a date with her, and Mariner was like, "Oh, is it Ensign or Lieutenant?" I thought it was Ensign.
I think it's Lieutenant Barnes, yeah.
But when Mariner's like, "Oh, she's hot," and she's like, "Wait, this sounds familiar."
I love the fuck pairs because that's
Yeah,
that's a punchline from an Eddie Izzard stand-up routine. So
I
was
didn't
like,
catch that. I didn't realize
I'm pretty
that's what
sure
it
it's
is.
deliberate.
Oh, very
He does a
cool.
whole thing about how he hates pairs, and the kind of the punchline is fuck.
That's
pairs.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really cool reference.
And then I liked, we're never really supposed to take Tindy too seriously. I think they kind of tipped their hand and showed to us that like she's going a little overboard early on. But I just loved her like running around with the medical gun, whatever the hell.
The tactical assault medical dispenser. Yeah, I love that thing. She just got the case and puts it all together, and it's this huge.
I just had a brilliant idea. Like all of these jerks that can get vaccinated, but they're just choosing not to.
Oh, that's what we
If
need.
We had to just like run around like shoot the vaccine into them. Like, we would skip the people who like for medical reasons, obviously, aren't allowed to have the vaccine. But all the anti-science, anti-vaxxers. I want that Tindy gun now.
What did she call it? Medical venom, which was really funny.
Yeah, medical venom was hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't even. Sometimes if I hear like a weird thing, if I don't remember it, I'll just search it on Memory Alpha to see if it was ever used before. It's like I'm not gonna look that one up. I know that there's no medical venom in Star Trek. I remember medical venom. The only thing that bothered me there was when they're having that heart-to-heart moment, and I liked the way it was written and the way it was played out, and it's just they're showing like out the window the giant Ransom head attacking them. I was like,
y'all
have something else to be worried about right now.
See that. I just headcanon that the turbo lifts must have failed or something, and they're stuck on that deck, so they have nothing to do but deal with their personal issues because they.
But there's the Ransom heads outside in the background eating the nacelles.
No, that's what I that was the funniest gag.
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
whole
really
thing
funny
for me.
Yeah.
As far as just because for once. The Ransom gag worked because the camera wasn't pointed at Ransom. It was just kind of going on in the background, and I like the fact that even the characters in the show have stopped paying attention to this overdone joke, and it's just desperately seeking attention in the background, and they don't care. And I thought that was hilarious, and it's gnawing the nacelle. Oh God, I love that so much. I know it was silly. I had to headcanon that they couldn't get to the bridge or whatever their red alert stations are. I just because of damage to the ship or something. But I did. Like,
you can also just read it that they're like so. They're both like so like invested in their friendship that that's all they were focused on at the time. The other stuff didn't matter.
I mean, admittedly, if somebody was
interpretation, but
admittedly, if somebody was chasing me with a gun, shooting unknown stuff at me, and talking about cutting my brain out, I wouldn't care about the big flying head outside either.
Brian, not just anyone, but like your best friend,
your best bud.
Yeah. So from Rutherford had a good excuse to not care. Tendi is perhaps dereliction of duty charges. She deserves to be thrown in a brig more than Mariner does in this episode, but any wildly more.
Any other thoughts on? Sorry, I'm getting excited because I know I'm about to like go eat this steak coming up. But any other thoughts on the B story before we talk about that Boimler ending?
I enjoy Tendi. I think she and Rutherford are some of my favorite characters. So I was glad that they took this opportunity with no Boimler to focus a stronger spotlight on them.
Yeah, I mean, that felt like the most lower decks part of it, since Mariner was kind of now unintentionally an upper decker, right? Like she's hanging around with the upper decks thing. So yeah, that definitely felt like the most lower decks part of it. And yeah, like I said, my initial reaction was like I was kind of surprised at the opener because I wasn't expecting it to be this. I kind of had like this other expectation, but not a bad thing. Just that's how it was, but like, again, I've warmed up to it and I really think it's a strong opener, and I just love all the gags they were doing between, especially the Lieutenant Barnes thing, like repeating the same mistakes over and over. And she even like at the end when they hug, she's like, "Don't date Lieutenant Barnes" or something, like she sneaks that in there as if it's like, they're like that was the whole thing. I don't think we
Mariner told her to tell him, but she's clearly afraid of confronting him too directly.
Right.
So she's like, just quickly throws it out there.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Then, that's true. She kind of like, she has that moment.
I quickly blurt it out right now, and then hope that nobody brings it up ever again. So,
and I loved the part where she was electroshocking him. Let's see, what is it, Lieutenant? It's an ensign. She's an ensign. Whoops. Official. We gave her a promotion. She has lieutenant. She has a lieutenant like maturity to her. I don't know. But I
did love the wouldn't shut up about the symbiote.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was really funny too. That was a good
Lieutenant, or I'm sorry. No, you got me backwards. She is Ensign Barnes.
Ensign Barnes.
Just wanted everyone to know.
I don't know if this
got it right.
I don't know if this is true, but I liked the atmospherics were a little bit more. There was like an actual like soundtrack, like a loungy music playing in the Cerritos lounge,
like music that would be like it sounded like it was like in the bar.
Yeah, like in the bar music. Yeah, exactly. Like if it was playing there, and I don't remember any of that in season 1, so maybe that was happening. I don't know, but that was cool.
I like that. I like that idea. If that's true.
Yeah. I wish they had that in 10 Forward, because I think 10 Forward never had music really playing unless they were doing like a concert or something like.
Yeah.
So it was a nice little.
They had
touch.
that party on Discovery where they were all dancing. To,
that's right.
What was the song? Anyway, yeah, but that was kind of like that. There wasn't people performing the song. It was clearly just played off tape. So,
like music, like elevator music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but bar music, whatever you want to call it. Like, but it was all very nice, nicely done. Everything looks a little more polished, a little bit more. The timing is a little bit sharper and everything. It's all. You could see the improvement, and I like what Trek on the Tube said. Whereas it didn't feel like you were getting a reinvention; it did feel like a continuation of the show that you fell in love with in season 1. So even if it wasn't like a PAL band,
Discovery.
Which
every season it's something, and I think season 2 of Picard is going to be
interesting.
Kind of
we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, not Lower Decks. Lower Decks kind of and he's totally right. It feels like the same show. Like it doesn't feel like you could watch them back to back and you wouldn't know you switch from one season to the other. Really.
Yeah, just like there is a few months gap.
Yeah.
Other than that, it would just be like going from one episode to the next. But
right.
So let's talk about the cap on the end of the episode.
Yes.
The transition to, I bet Boimler's having the time of his life, to Boimler screaming for his life during a battle with the Packleds. And they named those Packled ships. Apparently they're called War Harpies.
War Harpies.
Last season I wanted to call them War Turkeys.
Oh, I like that.
Because I think they're not they're so kind of clunky and
war turkeys
bloated that they would be like war turkeys instead of war birds, but no, they're war harpies, or at least that's what the caption said on Paramount.
That's pretty
Plus.
Funny.
And I don't know what a gluonic disruption is. I think that was something new. But there's the Titan goes into some space anomaly during this battle. And I mean,
gluons are a subatomic particle, so I'm sure it's supposed to be tied in with that somehow. But
like a IRL subatomic particle.
In real life.
Gluons are in real life. Most of the subatomic particles they throw around in Star Trek are real particles, even if they don't actually do the things that we see on the show.
Yeah, there's gluons, muons. There's gluons and muons, I think, right? So subatomic particles have weird names, Fatheree.
Yeah,
like Higgs boson and
the big thought I had from the end of this is we see Riker making more of his jazz metaphors and then shouting, "I love this job," as he flies into this anomaly being attacked with his ship being attacked. And I felt like, okay, that's kind of like the Riker we know, but dialed up to 11. Like he might be thinking, I love being captain, but he wouldn't say, I love this job as the ship gets attacked. So I was like, is this the key we need to decode Lower Decks? The difference between live action Riker
I love
Lower
that.
Decks Riker. That difference is the difference we need to apply when decoding what everyone else does, because I think it's we could debate whether or not Captain Freeman would or would not do this or that or the other things, but we have a pretty good grip on what Riker would and would not do. We have 7 years worth of data on his what he would and would not say if he was in command of a starship in those situations. And I feel like maybe that is the key to figuring out, what happens in the Prime universe versus what happens in the Lower Decks version.
But the Lower Decks universe is Prime.
Yeah, but that's then what's your rationale for what happened to Riker? What happened to Riker? That's the new question.
It's inconsistent writing, because they want this Riker to play more for an animated comedy.
Yeah. Well, I that's why I feel like we're not necessarily getting the version that we would get if we saw this live action. So
yes,
I mean, I think he would say something. I think he would say something like, I mean, in a situation like this, he might say something. He might have some kind of catchy phrase. It wouldn't be "I love this job," but he might have said something like "brace yourself," in that same tone or whatever. Like, "Here we go," I don't know.
Yeah, maybe "Here we go."
Here we go, or something like that.
Like I said, it is Riker. It's just Riker dialed up to 11, whereas he's normally at an 8 or something. And so I can totally imagine that he's thinking in his head, I love this job, as he has this really cool plan to take out these war harpies, and he's just loving it. But him saying it out loud just feels like that we've stepped into some slight variation of Star Trek from where the Riker we know lives.
Yes, but I don't know. Like, I can't. We've had so much debates of is this show canon? Is that show canon? And no, they're all canon. They're all Prime universe. That's just.
Yeah, I'm certainly accepting it as canon. I just kind of question: is this some slight variation of the Prime timeline?
I think what you have. I think what you have to do is kind of this show may be the show that does that, because I think it will actually help with a lot of incongruities in Star Trek. There's a lot of people that have I don't, but there's a lot of people who have problems with TOS. They can't reconcile TOS because for them Star Trek is the TNG era, and so when they go back and watch TOS, it's hard for them to parse how this could be the same Star Trek as what I grew up watching, Voyager and stuff like that. And I think this show is going to help people kind of let go of that kind of be less stingy about it and just focus on the bigger picture, if you will. I'm not trying to
don't worry about continuity, but still pay attention to the Gornags.
I guess
which are all continuity.
Continuity,
literal manifestations of continuity.
But not even don't pay attention to the continuity, but just don't pay attention. I'm gonna call it this is the thing I made up just now, the micro continuity, right? There's a big continuity, there's an overall continuity that's just the big picture bullet point, right? And then there's the little things oh yeah, that's not Riker. Riker shouldn't act like that. Riker would never say that, which we can say with confidence knowing Riker through all these adventures and TV shows, but it's micro continuity. It's not necessarily affecting anything. It doesn't change anything about Riker really. When you think about it, it doesn't alter his character.
Well, that's why I was saying using it as a guide for how
that's
to
what I loved. Yeah,
else.
A keystone. Yeah, I love that. That's the way
Rosetta
you have to,
Stone.
The Rosetta Stone. Or I was really tuned into that, because that actually, when you said that helped me kind of understand and parse what I was trying to say. It's a similar vibe. Yeah, exactly. I love that idea. And Kirk, you could call the visuals of the Enterprise the keystone for maybe I'm just throwing things out, but the TOS keystone. There's a keystone for every major change in Star Trek, and Riker is it for this one.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say about the ending with Boimler is that I was very surprised that they saved all of that for this very brief part of the episode. It almost felt like Boimler was never going to show up beyond the fake Boimler, the hologram Boimler at the beginning. And so this is probably too much inside baseball for anyone to care about, but I'm gonna tell it to all of y'all anyways. Whenever I am preparing my visuals for these shows that we do, I always have to make a thumbnail, and I typically use something that they've released in like the preview images for each episode. Every new episode of Star Trek, they release some preview images before that episode comes out to promote it. I never look at those until after I've watched the episode, because I hate spoilers. I don't watch the previews week to week. This time I made that early before I flew to Vegas, so I actually had to look at them, and I used the one that had Boimler and Riker on the Titan because I thought that would be kind of like a big focus point of this episode. And it was just like a tiny little scene at the very end.
Yeah.
It was actually a terrible choice, so I apologize for it. And the other unfortunate thing with that is that I saw that this is the episode that's going to have Mariner and the Cardassians. And I was like, oh no, I wish I could have been surprised by that. Fortunately, the episode opened with that, so I quickly saw the thing that I knew and wish I didn't know, and so it ended up not really hurting anything.
I was
It
surprised
spoiled the first 10 seconds of the episode.
Yes.
I was really surprised because the teaser had the Ransom shooting strange energy out of his hands and spinning, and I thought that was going to come much later. I didn't expect it to be in the first episode either, so I was a little like surprised as well.
I did remember thinking, oh, I suspect that's going to be a little one-off gag that occupies a minute worth of screen time with him spinning around with the rainbows.
Yeah.
And then when we got there, not only was I wrong,
plot.
yeah, but I kind of felt like maybe it should have been scaled down a bit, that it did go on too long. So.
By the way,
like
that is
that
my
idea.
new favorite GIF. I've used it way too many times, and I've been using the word Excelsior a lot.
And it's also like rainbow energy. So it's going to be next June. I think it's going to be a very popular like Pride gift.
And they revealed the first shirt in the Star Trek shirt collective for Lower Decks, and it is Ransom. It's a cool design. It's different from how it's on the show. It's a unique design for the shirt, but it is him doing the energy, the strange energies thing. So it's cool.
Well, I do have some Gorn eggs to run through, but before I do that, I just want to give both of y'all an opportunity to, if you didn't get it all out of your system, if you had any remaining thoughts that you want to end on before we wrap up this conversation.
I'll just say I'm excited about the season. Mike McMahan said, whatever you think is happening, it's going to be way crazier than that, and so don't even try to like figure it out. And so I'm looking forward to whatever is coming. I think next episode it looks like it's going to take place on the Titan, or a lot of it will, and I'm really excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'm looking forward to the season. I am hoping that I will be wowed by the next episode.
Okay.
What is he cracking open?
I'm gonna crack open a beer.
Nice.
While I run through these Gorn eggs. Then I'm gonna go eat my steak.
I love it.
But like I said, I haven't had much time. I've been busy. I might have skipped over some Gorn eggs. So if I did, feel free to tweet at me, comment on the YouTube video, comment on the Facebook post. Let me know if I missed anything, and if so, I'll let everyone know next week. Hey, this person found the Gorn egg that I missed. But just starting off at the very beginning, we open with the Cardassian torture scene, very clearly an homage to Chain of Command. That hangar bay that had the USS Macduff.
I thought it also reminded me of the one where O'Brien gets captured by Cardassians.
What reminded you of it?
The lighting, the walls, the way they set up the room felt much more like post DS9 Cardassian architecture.
That's what I was wondering, if there's like it was a good fusion of like TNG Cardassians and DS9 Cardassians, which kind of bothered me because we were talking about how like shouldn't Cardassians be a little bit different now post Dominion War, but it was all holodeck program, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I was wondering if like something on like that excruciator table was like a device used like pull O'Brien's tooth out or something like that. I just did not have time to go and check that stuff, so sorry. But the ships in the hangar bay, I haven't had time to freeze frame and look at all of them, but the ones that I did see, there is a runabout. What's it? The Danabu did Duna Bay.
Danube,
How do you say that word?
Danube, the Danube
Yeah,
class,
Danube.
Danube.
like the
Yeah,
blue
whatever.
Danube, the
Yeah,
one
it's
in
like a river.
Germany, the Danube River in Germany.
Okay, I only know that word because of the runabouts, and I mainly like see it written in like the technical manuals and stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the river in which the ring maidens live in the ring cycle, and that's where the Rhine maidens. Sorry, no, that's the Rhine River. My bad. Boops. I'm confusing Lord of the Rings and German mythology. I apologize.
Yeah, that was a little weird, but
sorry. The Rhine
we had
maidens.
the runabout. There was of course the Macduff as a Miranda class. Even had like the bridge from Wrath of Khan. There's a Jem'Hadar fighter. There was a Valdor Romulan warbird, like the one from Star Trek
From
Nemesis.
Nemesis, yeah.
Yeah, there's the TOS Romulan bird of prey, and there were those like Starfleet or Maquis fighters, those small little fighter ships. Those are the ones I saw.
Did they make clear what that room is supposed to be? Did you guys just a room full of oddball ships was all I could pull from it?
It seemed like they were captured vessels,
ships.
so it was like a captured vessel hangar or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then next up after that was, of course, the Gary Mitchell connection to the cage that we've already pointed out. Also, after these are not nearly as fun to do without like the visuals that I have on screen. So sorry about that. The Sequoia, the shuttlecraft that Shax flew to that other ship on, it looks like like he pushed Rutherford back. Just want to point out, like it looks like they're working on that. You know, they would hang out and like work on that shuttle. I saw the Sequoia, so it looks like they're going to continue to like have our lower deckers, repairing that thing again.
Yes, their own Delta flyer.
Ensign, not Lieutenant, but Ensign Barnes mentioned her sister just got a symbiont. I thought that was a really funny joke, by the way. She's like, "Oh, she's so different now from the new personalities." No, because like she always wants to talk about having a symbiont. I was like, "Oh yeah, the trill humor. I love it."
Yeah.
Of course, that was a reference to the trill. And citation ops, which I don't know if we got to keep counting this as a Gornag because it's now like a recurring thing in Lower Decks.
And I think we might see it this season, this or next season. I'm not sure.
Mike McMahan said we will see it in season 2.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And speaking of cetaceans, the mural or the painting that is revealed above the strange energies thing, and it made me wonder if there was a connection with the whale probe. Looked like a humpback whale with like alien things on it, so it looked like an alien cetacean.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was supposed to be like a Gormagander connection or something.
Or
like
yeah,
that,
or maybe a Gormagander or something like that.
It looked unique enough that I couldn't pin down if it was actually a reference to something. If it was, please let me know. After that, when Rutherford mentions the LSD thing, which Tindy was talking about, the SMD, the synthetic memory degradation, but no LSD thing. I guess that was a callback to Star Trek 4 when Kirk says Spock did a little too much LDS, and that's what is kind of the official unofficial acronym for Lower Decks is LDS, according to Van Sitters, anyways. After that, there is the Ransom hands, the god hands grabbing the ship. Obviously, a reference to Who Mourns for Adonais. It's not Adonis. It's not.
I know.
Y'all say it right.
Know.
It's Adonais.
We learned that on when you came on. Yeah, it's Adonais.
Then after that, Mariner refers to Ransom's crotch as his neutral zone.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. That's awesome. That's really funny.
That sounds like an insult. Neutral. Nothing ever happens there.
The neutral zone.
Yeah, the neutral zone first being established in Balance of Terror. And then my favorite Easter egg, Gorn egg of the episode was Stevens reading Nightingale Woman to Ransom. Nightingale Woman being a poem by the poet Tarbold written in 1996 on some planet and quoted by Gary Mitchell in Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Actually written by Gene Roddenberry.
Yes, it was Gene Roddenberry's My Love Has Wings, which was a poem about his love of airplanes. Like my love has wings, but also my love is a plane, so it has wings.
I wonder if Nichelle Nichols ever put that poem to music and sang it.
I don't know. Maybe we can get her to do that. She canceled Vegas, so I didn't see her. And the last Gornegg was Riker referring to the jam session, which was, I guess, an acknowledgement of his jazz music. What does he say? Too many licks and not enough comps.
Yeah, I didn't understand the reference, so maybe if you guys know, you can explain it. That's cool.
I don't know. I play bass.
Yes.
I don't
we have now added. We have technobabble and biobabble, and now we have jazzobabble.
Jazzobabble, I love that.
Jazzobabble, I like it.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be it for the night. I did have another comment I wanted to share from parenthesis I, who said, "Hey Fatheree, you're at STLV right now, right? Did they have a big event for the grand premiere of the first episode of season 2? There were some Lower Decks festivities yesterday. However, I didn't get to go participate in those. I was busy doing some other stuff. But there was a lot of talk yesterday about Lower Decks. You know, like, you want to be careful not to like spoil things in front of other people if they haven't had a chance to watch it. But there was a little bit of Lower Decks energy, I think, yesterday. And there are a lot of cosplayers wearing the Lower Decks uniforms. Mike McMahan was here at Vegas 2 years ago, the last time we had it in 2019, and they had just recently revealed the images of the Lower Decks crew. It's crazy that it was like 2 years ago. I feel like the show has been around for a while now, but yeah, they had only just revealed them. And Mike McMahan said, "I see none of you cosplayers are cosplaying Lower Decks uniforms yet. You know, that needs to change. The images are out there. Y'all make these costumes. Come on." and now, the very next STLV, I see Lower Decks uniforms all over the place.
It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
McMahan, is it McMahan at the convention? Is he going to do a panel now that the first episode? Oh, so it seems like are they going to have a dedicated panel of somebody from the show talking about the first episode, or
there's no one from the show here, I don't think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Unless I'm forgetting somebody. I might be. Apologies if I am, but I want to know what our audience thinks about it. So I encourage people to let me know on here. I'll ask everyone on Twitter and Facebook. And if we have time next week, we will read some of these comments and let your reaction be shared with the rest of our audience. And if you're checking us out for the first time, you know, if season 2, episode 1 of Lower Decks is what brought you here to Tex-Trek, please let me reiterate that I normally try to maintain like a little higher level of quality. I'm normally like not in a hotel room with this headset that probably doesn't sound as good. I typically have visuals for the video audience that watches the video side of things, but we try to keep everything enjoyable if you're just listening to the podcast. So I feel like we've kind of mastered both of those.
There's probably a playlist for season 1 of Lower Decks on Tex-Trek that you could go and check and look at how we did it. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, so that is all that season 1 stuff is available. We cover all the new shows, Discovery, Picard. We're going to be doing Prodigy soon, and then Strange New Worlds when that hits. So definitely check us out. I hope you come back and become part of the conversation with us. And I need to close things down because, as PJ is reminding me, I have a steak to eat.
If you're feeling up to it, Fatheree, if you're feeling up to it, come on Starfleet Boy After Dark later and tell us all about your steak and the con. So
okay, I might be able to drop in from the rooftop. We'll see what happens.
All right, cool.
But yeah, everyone needs to go check out. If you're checking us out live, everyone needs to go immediately over to, well, maybe not immediately,
like around 10:30 in about 30 minutes.
Around 10:30, go to the Starfleet Boy After Dark channel and check out that show.
That's 10:30 Eastern.
10:30 Eastern. And I will close things down with the traditional live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. and follow Fatheree on Twitter at Tex-Trek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.